Um, so one of my most popular videos was talking about how I didn't understand black women or whatever. And I've been really doing a lot of research on this. And I thought this was really crazy. Something that I learned, I think even with my live stream that I had with my husband last night and talking about black women and dating and prospects and things like that, watching this video has given me a lot of insight. So real quick, my name is Jesse B. You know, it's my new channel or whatever. And I've dedicated this channel to kind of trying to understand the black community better, as well as, you know, giving tips and showing ways that people can live like just a regular married life. Because I know there's a lot of, you know, mainstream extravaganza around marriage and stuff like that. It's really a simple life. But at any rate, I just thought this video would be something that people would be interested in, and I guess without further ado, I'll hit play.
This is a staple of many black women's hair care, but is it time to stop using it? A recent study published by Consumer Reports finds that cancer-causing ingredients as well as lead is present in several popular brands of synthetic hair. So, Dr. Imahirobo Ip, tell us, what exactly is in these products?
So synthetic hair is made of an ingredient called Kanekalon. And Kanekalon, interestingly enough, is made by one company called Kaneka. And what the study found, it studied 10 different packs of hair from different companies. And as you mentioned, it found really harmful ingredients in addition to the synthetic material.
Okay, so I just wanted to stop it right there. One thing that I used to complain about a lot was black women's image. And I've even heard in certain social circles on the internet how a lot of times people will talk about black women's image and talk about how we're always wearing weaves and we're always wearing synthetics and stuff like that. And immediately this video caught my eye because it's just the fact that black women, we're so programmed into thinking that we have to have like long flowing hair to be attractive, and things like that. So the fact that there are harmful ingredients in the hair that we put on our head, I thought that was kind of wild, you know. So, but yeah, I'm gonna just continue to play the video. So we're already starting off bad. The whole having the weaves and everything, that's already inducing a lot of chemicals in a person's scalp.
So one of them was lead, and in some of the packs, it had over 600 times the amount of lead that's allowable by certain states like California and Massachusetts.
Wow.
They also found an ingredient called benzene. Now, benzene is a highly reactive ingredient. It's actually discouraged that we use it in labs, and benzene has been linked to leukemia and lymphoma. The other
Now, that leukemia and lymphoma, I can't tell you how many women that I see all the time wear a lot of weaves and they have leukemia, coincidentally. So, like, another thing that made me stop for a second when I first looked at this video was the fact that there are high traces of lead. Not only are there high traces of lead, but there are high traces that even some states, like for example, she said California, they don't even allow that level of lead in their products for any other thing. But for hair products, particularly black women's hair products, like what we put in our hair, somehow that's allowed, right? So another thing that she brought up was the whole, you know, lead thing, and immediately I was thinking of lead poisoning. So I'm just reading a quick clip real quick. So like, let me see. Oh, from the World Health Organization, it says exposure to very high levels of lead can severely damage the brain and central nervous system, causing coma, convulsions, and even death. So these are the type of chemicals that are found that are directly resting on black women's scalps when we wear these long weaves and stuff like that. So even with me going on this little mini side, this is like a side quest for me because like I said before, originally I was not looking to start a YouTube channel. I was just trying to figure out what direction I'm going in. But it started to become a vlog. But after that one video got so popular, I was just like, yeah, see, case in point. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, the fact I'm thinking that these chemicals that are in so-called urban or black women's hair products, I'm thinking that that's a part of what happens when we put this stuff in our head. This stuff causes brain damage, right? And yeah, I don't use those products. Like, I even commented that when I would try to use those products, I would literally physically get sick, or my hair would literally fall out. So, I mean, for anybody whose scalp could stand it, like, I more power to you, but me, I get sick real quick.
It found was methyl chloride. See, these are just things we can't even pronounce.
Exactly.
So, methyl chloride is linked to lung cancer and liver cancer. So just a lot of really harmful ingredients.
Wow. So needless to say, this is very concerning. To the point, one of my friends texted me over the weekend and was like, so what are we doing about our braids, right? Point blank, because like, as I mentioned, we all got a pack or two of hair, many of us at least, lying around. And Shelly and Zena, I know that you see this a lot in your salons. How are you reacting to this news?
As Shelly said earlier, with the Crown Act coming, that opened up the door.
Yes, it did.
And then we're looking at it, the next generation, the younger girls are looking at it. So it's something that we have to pay attention to, because everybody wants to have the long hair.
Yeah.
That's what we came up with, either the long braids or the long hair. It was the look.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind the gesture that this woman is making as she's talking about long hair. So for black people, naturally, as you can see from my hair grows in a crown. Our hair naturally grows into a crown. As you can see her hair, it grows, like when you see Jesus and there's that big circle, this right here, natural, right? But even when I was talking to LQ Trucker last night, shout out to my husband Josh, when he was talking about how white women are perceived versus black women are perceived in dating, that whole long flowing hair, that gesture is just so natural for us, to where here it is, this woman, I don't know how old she is, but she's old enough for me, somebody like of my age, to walk up to and be like, hey, can I get advice on this, that, and the third? And if she's already thinking in her mind that long flowing hair, right, that's considered like beautiful, versus like for me, like how we're trained and conditioned that this is ugly or unattractive. So I just wanted to take time to stop for a second to acknowledge how black women, how we think of our image, and how even the way that we talk about the way other people look compared to us, the reaction of that. Another thing before I continue with the video is how they talked about packs of hair, always having like packs of hair laying around. I remember when I was in the Air Force and there were like a lot of, white people and other people who had like long flowing hair naturally, genetically. And they used to ask me all the time, like, how do black people, and the black women, how do they keep changing up their hair and stuff like that? So a lot of other cultures don't even know that black women literally braid other people's hair, sew other people's hair into our heads, constantly hiding who we are underneath it. So I really appreciate the fact that she brought this point out, that we have packs of hair all the time.
Yeah. So what the young girls see is what we're gonna really have to start promoting, especially in our salons, in your business. Yeah. Because I always say it's the next generations that are gonna come into us. And with me meeting you, Doc Tip, coming to your office, I had the extensions. Yeah. And I had some situations, and with meeting you, you didn't tell me what to do. You suggested things that would work for me. Yeah. No, I never thought I would cut my hair off like this.
I love
it. But from your encouragement.
Now, this is another thing I wanted to point out as well. This whole, notice when she was talking about long hair, how light the tension was in the room. On the flip side, now she's talking about how she had to cut her hair, which is so crazy because a lot of times it's not that she had to cut her hair, she had to cut all of the chemicals, all of the damages from those chemicals out of her head in order to get something like what I got, right? Like with all those chemicals and stuff, you grab that hair like that, it's gonna come out, or it's a lot of stress on your scalp. I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge the fact that these days black women are being congratulated for going natural. I remember when I was going out with some of my cousins and we planned in advance to go out. And this is when I was a kid. I wasn't even an adult. I had to be like, and I wasn't even like a teenager yet. I had to be like maybe 9 or 10, like preteen age. And we were planning on going out. Our moms had gotten together. We planned it in advance to go out. And when the day came for us to go out, I just had my natural hair and I had it styled, but I didn't have any extensions or anything like that. And my cousins were reluctant to go out with me. My own cousins. I'm saying these are my blood family members. This ain't play. And they were telling me that I was brave for going outside with my own hair. And they were telling me like, hey, do you think that people might feel, would you feel uncomfortable? Like, do you feel weird that you're outside? Telling me that I'm brave for wearing my own hair. That's the type of stuff that young black girls deal with. And then on top of that, when you're listening to these women talk about, hey, we have to change this with our younger women and things like that. Because generations of women before us, even when me and Josh talked about this last night, for him, he was kind of taken aback when I was telling him there are black girls who are told that they're ugly or they're not pretty because they don't have a certain hair color, they don't have a certain eye color. This is what I was referring to. This lady, even at her big old age, and I'm not trying to say nothing funny about it, but even in her psyche, she needed to be uplifted by these other women at the table for saying, hey, I chose to start wearing my own hair.
Between me doing my, background check and from you adding to it, it made me realize it was time to go back to the natural hair. I'm not saying don't get relaxers. Because you have to do what's best for you, but you encourage the little girls and the young ladies like me to do what's best for our hair.
And it's interesting you mentioned this because there is a class action lawsuit pending from consumers who have purchased chemical hair relaxers and said the makers of these relaxers didn't know that there were endocrine disrupting agents in these that were indeed harmful.
And let me just pause right here because something I was pulling up on my other screen. She mentioned that there are endocrine disruptors. Now, I know in common language, we usually don't really talk like this. So I just wanted to kind of bring this out to kind of let people understand what an endocrine system is. So the endocrine system is, and I'm reading and quote, is a network of glands and organs that produce and release hormones to regulate and control many bodily functions. So I just wanted to take a second on that because this system, again, let me go slower, is a network of glands and organs. So this stuff that black women are that we're putting in our hair is actually disrupting our glands and our organs. And these particular glands and organs produce and release hormones to regulate and control many bodily functions. So a lot of times when black women are criticized, especially in the mating and the dating world, it's always about, us not being healthy. And they always run straight to diet. Oh, you eat, your diet is this and that. How come you don't cook or whatever? You're eating all that fast food, big bad warrior, blah, blah, blah. All those things are not paying attention to the fact that from head to toe, and I might just do a series where I'm breaking down how black women are, I hate to say it this way, but we're under attack. There used to be a time when I used to be black male centric, where I was always looking at what the black man is going through until, and I'm gonna be real with y'all, until I just recently had my daughter. And that just made me think a completely different way. It was easy for me to do that because I grew up in a male dominated environment, mostly brothers, male cousins. My father, he had passed away, but after he passed away, my stepfather, he was very instrumental in my life. And so I've always had a strong man around. And then, from a stepdad to my husband. And then I had a son. So then everything was black man this, black man that, black man, black man, black man, all my whole life. But the second part of that narrative is what I was missing, which was, what about the black woman? Because it's so easy for me to lean on, what's going on with black men. It's always easy to lean on what's happening outside instead of what's inside, right? So just real quick, leaning on this endocrine system thing. A lot of times it's not solely a black woman's diet and exercising patterns. Lifestyle is a major form of that, and a major part of black women's lifestyle is our hair, our appearance. Everybody knows that women who are in the workplace, their image is everything. It can really determine whether it make or break. Men, they have a different standard of judgment, but women, we know for a fact that if your image is not up to code in the workplace, you're going to be overlooked. It doesn't matter how hard you work and things like that. Image is a major factor with women. And so a part of our competitiveness is being able to stand out and being able to be more attractive than our female counterparts, right? So with that being said, the chemicals in our hair, if you take, I'm going to just go ahead and reference something that my husband said last night. Because, sometimes he speaks a little off the cuff. And, I was taken aback about some of the things he was saying. But he was saying how white women are perceived. And, as a black man, when he was dating, the narrative that he was fed about white women being more desirable in his upbringing and things like that. To some extent, I can see how that narrative can be, how to put it, like a lie can become the truth in that. If you really just follow this real quick. If you look at a white woman, her hair is laid, like the weaves, like the wigs. All she has to do is get up, comb through it, clean it, ready for work, right? Not that I'm minimizing what white women going through, I'm just building a point here. So, after that, take the black woman on the flip side. Do you know how much I have to do to my hair to get it to straighten out? And even when it does straighten out, it's a lot, right? But even just listening to this panel of women here, this round table of women, what I have to do to pull off that look that's oftentimes a cultural fit, I have to destroy my health in order to fit in the workplace. So now going back to my, one of my most popular videos of how I didn't understand black women, one of the main reasons why I don't understand black women is because I'm not in their shoes. I am not living a life where I have to go get it, if you will. My husband provides for me and I'm so grateful to him. I'm so grateful for what he does for this family. But now I'm starting to realize my disconnect with black women is that when you have to do all this crazy stuff to your hair every day just to get through the workday, that takes a toll on you. You're inducing your illness according to the research that these women have pulled about putting these weaves and stuff in your head. So I just wanted to kind of pause on the endocrine system. It's deep.
And so it really just is kind of like, what are we supposed to do with our hair at this point, right? Because for many people, braids have been a way to not only get that hang time, a couple inches, right? But also to just kind of set it and forget it and put your hair in a so-called protective style, right, Shelly? But is there any safe way to do this?
Well, like you said, they have different levels of the VOC and the VOR inside of them. But I think the less is better, but I think they need to start labeling exactly what are in these synthetic brands of hair. without synthetic hair, like half the people are not going to feel comfortable with styles or braids. You know, like you said, hang time. We love that extra length.
Just like what she just said, without the synthetic hair, we're not gonna feel comfortable wearing our own head. That's something. Just imagine, like, a lot of times I went to predominantly white schools, went from middle to high school white, and then from high school Air Force, from Air Force college, and it was not an HBCU. From excuse me, I think they call it a predominantly white institution, PWI. Okay, so let me do the math on that. So elementary school, black. Okay, cool. Shout out Thomasville Elementary in Charlotte, North Carolina. So from middle school up, NWSA, predominantly white. From there, Air Force, predominantly white. From there, what did I do after that? UNC Charlotte, PWI, predominantly white. From UNC Charlotte, truck driving, nothing but rednecks, right? So now here I am, housewife, and I live in a trucking town. So I'm like, ooh, didn't think I would land here, right? But even in listening to these ladies, like, I think one of the reasons why I have a hard time understanding black women is because I didn't really grow up around them. So just an epiphany moment for me. But the main thing is when she was saying, oh, so we can get that hang time, so our hair can hang. It's like built into our psyche, man. We don't even think about it, right? And the fact that, I'll wear braids, but I don't want to braid my own hair. I need to braid somebody else's hair into my head.
But, with all the chemicals in it being brought out now, it's kind of like scary.
Yeah. And there are human hair extensions, right? We know this. There are plant-based hair extensions, but I got to tell you, a pack of this, for instance, is about $5 to $10 a pack. That plant-based hair, $36 a pack, and sometimes you often need more than one. Yeah. So what do you say to people who still want to get those extensions, but may not be able to access or afford the more expensive and arguably safer ones?
I mean, one of the things that I'm trying to emphasize in my practice where I'm seeing a ton of hair loss is that hair health is part of our overall body health. I personally lost one of my closest cousins to uterine cancer. And as I was thinking about this and researching this, one of the things that I realized is that, she was 59 when she passed away, but I never saw her without braids, right? And so I started to think about how much could that have contributed? Otherwise, she was a vegetarian. She lived a very active lifestyle. And I think the problem is that none of this is regulated. I just want everyone to know that when it comes to medications, we have the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. But when it comes to personal care products, that is not regulated.
And why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I think we need to acknowledge that these things are all very political, right? And I think
that's the thing. That's scary. So, our food and drugs, they have regulations on them, but our hair products don't. Black women in particular, even with my hair growth journey, I've learned that certain hair products, especially that are advertised to black women, can be so dangerous that it can really have your hair fall out. And here's another thing I wanted to point out too. The fact that she was talking to one of her closest cousins, passing away at the age of 59. That is young. That's very young. And for her to have cancer, and she's always had these chemicals in her hair, right? So black women, like, one thing, again, referring to that video that I made, as I was talking about, if black women don't have chemicals in their hair, if they don't wear the lashes, if they don't wear the makeup, they'll look a lot like me. And in the middle of talking, I started feeling in the back of my mind, like, black men are under attack, but so are black women. Like, Here's the thing, and this is one of the reasons why I push marriage on my channel, especially for Black women. Like, my goal for this channel is to help Black women understand that marriage is not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. Because, again, I wouldn't be able to have time to care for my hair and my health and do research the way that I'm doing right now if I didn't have my husband who was providing for me and constantly giving me time to think and process and take care of the kids and things like that. Is having a functional life is nothing to look down on. And I can't stress that enough, because I see so many Black women on the internet talking down about women like me who took my husband's last name, who stay at home and take care of the house. And yes, my husband will be here tomorrow, so I'm cooking a whole spread. I don't know if I'm gonna be on the internet like that because my man gonna be in town. But anyway, just thinking about how it just feels like a dilemma for Black women at this point. It's like, are you going to go into the workforce and things like that and have to deal with stuff like this? Or can we stay home and be pioneers? Because these women, and they are professional women, these women are sitting here at this round table and they're talking with each other about an issue that I don't know why it hasn't, I don't know why that's not like broadcasted. But I'm just imagining, what if Black women can, stay home and we work together to make our own hair products for our community, for our daughters, for our sons, so that we can wear our own hair, so that we can be proud of who we are, instead of constantly trying to cosplay, being able to fit in with the beauty standard, or like a European way of seeing things, to the point where we're damaging ourselves literally. 59 is a very young age, especially for women, because women typically have longer life expectancies than men. And I will argue that one of the reasons why that woman, this lady, died so young, all the stress that comes with us acting against our natural selves, right? Like, to get out there and hustle and toil and go through the turmoil of, that's for men. And then let me just say this before I press play again. Black people are the most Bible waving folks. You can't get past Genesis without talking about how that was the curse of Adam, to work by the sweat of his brow. And Black women are finding so much pride in working like men. That's the number one violation. Before I press play, I just have to say that we gotta stop glorifying competing with men. It's not working for us. It's really not, and it's not healthy.
We need to acknowledge that a lot of research and a lot of regulations have to do with where the money flows. And I think that, as you mentioned, with the Crown Act, that was the first time that there was kind of like, okay, from these bigger brands like Dove, let's recognize that Black women are purchasing so much. It's a $19 billion industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And let's try to hold ourselves to a different standard of accountability to this population.
Could you imagine if that $19 billion that Black women were spending to support major companies that are ran by people who don't even like us went towards us making our own products? $19 billion? We're entrusting people who know nothing about us to make our products. Just food for thought. $19 billion worth. That's just hair. That's not nails. That's not makeup. Hair.
For that, there just wasn't really any accountability, I think.
And Zena, are you considering switching up the products that you use in your salon? Like, how do you talk to your clients about this?
Education is key. You come into my salon, education is key. We don't sell synthetic hair at all in my salon. We only sell 100% human hair. And even I went to the beauty supply. I don't know when the last time you went into beauty supply. I purposely went most of the stuff in there is that Kanekalon and the Magic Fingers. And I looked, no ingredients. Like you said, on
Both of those are
anything.
on the list
I
of
went through
braiding.
all of the packages
Yeah.
of the braiding here. Nothing was listed. And that's the thing. They're like misinformed.
Yeah. That's a sign right there. If there's no ingredients, it's probably bad ingredients.
Yes.
Yep. They don't have to tell you what's in their hair products. They don't, because it's not regulated.
They'd rather not list it. But you did mention the food FDA. I just feel like even they're letting a lot of things slide with us eating. So if that's bad, you can imagine.
The standards are also really different in America versus other countries like Europe and things like that. So we have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
But there's another group called the Environmental Working Group.
Yeah.
And they have a database called Skin Deep.
Yep.
And so what you can do, if you can see the ingredients, you can type them in. You can type in the name of the product.
Yeah.
In my practice, I'm always trying to opt for things that are greener and cleaner, right? Which is not necessarily the same as organic. And I can explain why that distinction is important. But I was looking up the things and saying, okay, good, has its nice green light. One, they rank it from 1 to 10 in terms of harmfulness.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they found, the Environmental Working Group, was that 4,000 products targeted towards Black women were either moderately harmful or highly harmful.
Wow. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, it just kind of, it's like we can't have
can't win.
Yeah.
We can't win, right? Like it's striking because we know that Black women are not.
Hey, this is where I gotta disagree. I have to say this. This whole narrative that Black women can't win, I'm sorry, I'm winning. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm cocky and I'm winning. Absolutely. One thing that I think that Black women have a hard time understanding is that as human beings, there are men and there are women. And Black women, we gotta value our men. We gotta do right by our men. We gotta take care of our men. And I really feel like the Black man has two issues that he has to deal with constantly. Of course, when he here in the United States, dealing with the fact that this country was set up the way it was, he has to deal with the world being the way it is, unfair circumstances, and he still got to power through that every single day. There are plenty of YNs that look like him. There are plenty of people who stereotype him. He has to deal with that day in and day out, and then turn around and come home to, a lot of them have to come home to a mean mother, a mean sister, a mean auntie, a mean grandma, a mean baby mama, he has to deal with that Black woman at the end of the day. So at the beginning of the day, has to deal with the forces of the world, and at the end of the day, has to deal with the pressure of being at home with his own women. I just have to say that because I can't tell you how many good Black men I know constantly being dragged by the women that they lean on for support. I think a lot of the things that's happening to Black women is a result of our men not being able to defend us because we're so busy competing to be in their role. So I just had to pause right there. Like, the majority of them can't win, but few of us are. We are definitely winning.
Not the only people who use hair extensions. I know you know this, Shelley, because you did Steven Tyler of Aerosmith's hair. You added some extensions to his. I don't think they were the Kanekalon, right?
No, it wasn't. It was human hair.
It was human hair. But it is interesting, right, that time and time again we're seeing these things come up with this demographic.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious from a business standpoint, right, knowing that, Zena, you said you only use human hair in your salon. Shelley, I wonder if this is a consideration for you, too. How does it affect the pricing when consumers are coming to you for services?
Yeah.
Is it just kind of a bullet you have to bite in raising your prices in that way?
In all honesty, a lot of times people come with their hair. We don't sell hair at Salon Monet. We do provide with extensions, human hair extensions. But yeah, we have to incorporate it in the price of the hair that we purchase. And a lot of the hair is like human, but I feel even human hair has a preserver in it as well that is can be dangerous. Not as dangerous as this, but it's still pretty harmful for the hair and scalp
Do you
and
think
skin.
that years from now, right? Because it took a while to get to the point where we were having a study like this with these revelations.
Yeah.
Do you think years from now we could see a similar study regarding human hair extensions?
Yeah, I hope it's brought out even more. Like, I talked about this probably 10, 15 years ago, but I think it's been 20 years.
Now, I just wanted to give clarification to this. It just came out that synthetic hair is extremely harmful. They haven't even started on human hair. So, just to put this in perspective, synthetic hair is fake from jump. It's not hair. It's it's fake. Or it comes from like an animal or something like that, right? Human hair, yes, it comes from humans. If there are so many chemicals in synthetic hair and they're just now coming out talking about what's in that, imagine what it takes to preserve human DNA, human hair, perishable hair. Because this panel just touched on, synthetic hair, non-organic, so plant-based hair that's non-organic as well. But human hair, and you know what? Now that I think about it, human hair might be more protected because it comes from actual human beings. So there may be some parts where they can't really comb through. That was a cute little pun. But they can't really do any research because that could be a violation of that person's rights on what's happening with that person's hair, even though they're selling it to us. $19 billion worth just to buy somebody else's hair on their head.
They've been putting this stuff in here, and now that it's affecting more women of color, and now that white women are getting into braided hair, Bo Derek look, I think it's really being brought to the forefront. Yeah.
And to that point, Zena, I mean, do you think it's because you mentioned the Crown Act? Of course, this was a congressional bill that was looking at not discriminating against natural hairstyles in the workplace. And you and Shelley were alluding to how it has catapulted into now looking at the harmful effects of these ingredients in the hair. Is this maybe a situation to where what Shelley is saying, as we see more demographics being affected by this, like if we're seeing that maybe the extensions that white women wear in their hair are having some of these ingredients, that there will be more action taken?
Now, before they start on that, the Crown Act is something that I literally just learned about while reacting to this, right? And I'm so grateful that this bill is reaching Congress to address how Black women are discriminated against in the workplace. A lot of the nasty things that Black girls are told when they're growing up about how their hair is not desirable, that gets echoed in the workplace when they start working. So like, if your aunt tell you your hair is ugly or it's nappy or you need to do something with your head, then when you go to work, then you have coworkers. I remember when I was in the Air Force and there were white people that didn't really, they told me that they didn't feel that my hairstyle looked like aggressive, for example. And it was in regulation and everything, but they said, you should wear like a wig or whatever. And they would make fun of my hair a lot. The Air Force can, be a little weird sometimes, but I noticed they would kind of nudge other service member, Black ones in particular, to say it how they want to say it. So instead of them coming out and just saying, hey, we don't like your hair, they'll get a Black chick in the office to say the slick stuff that they would probably get written up for. So, and that was back in like the 2010s, this stuff was happening. So here it is, 2025, and that's still an issue. That's still something that Black women have to deal with. And also, just to talk about, a little bit of my corporate experience, a lot of times when Black women are discriminated against for their hair, oftentimes they would send a black man to address us, which that used to throw me off, right? Because of course, as a black male, your hair regulations and your hair standards are that of a male, right? Just go get a haircut, you know? So that was that disparity. But I am glad that there's actually legislation being put in place for stuff like this because, yeah, like when black women be wanting to come home and talk about work, it be real. Like, yeah, I know black men go through stuff too, but this is, you know, in my opinion, I think this, I'm not trying to be misogynistic, but I think that the overwhelming majority of women need to be at home supporting their husbands. That's just me.
I think with the extensions in general, everyone goes for the nicer hair, for the better quality. So this isn't going to stop it, but we have to help promote it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Help educate it. I feel like with the younger girls, you're going to get here because that's the look. But we can help them. We can educate them. With the demographics, I just think it's the communities too.
Yeah.
We can't like underestimate the impact of money and the fact
definitely,
that like
definitely.
there's so many of us who can't afford like
Yes.
human hair is expensive. Like, you know,
Yeah,
even if you're using
it
it
is.
for your extensions,
Yeah.
you know, let's talk about wigs,
Yeah.
all of those things. It's really, really expensive and
But I
it
feel-
requires a different kind of maintenance
Yeah.
than the synthetic hair. And I think that in part is why
Maybe that's why so many black women on the internet are saying they need a man that makes a ridiculous amount of money because they gotta pay for all that. Like that, I don't know. As I'm listening to this, I'm like, you know, like I remember. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, how he used to talk about women back in the day. Like, where did black women come up with this standard that a man needs to make all this money and drive this kind of car and stuff? Because women in generations before us didn't have these nutty requirements, right? So, you know, I used to ask myself the same question. I mean, I was raised by old folks, so, but now I'm starting to see it. If you're spending this much money, because the synthetic hair is not good, you know, and nor is it healthy. But human hair, that's gotta cost a lot, and you gotta maintain that image, especially in a professional environment, right? So, you know, maybe that's a major factor in why black women spend money the way we do.
some people are afraid of it. You know what I mean?
I feel like human hair is a little bit more pricier, but it's reusable, right? Even braided human hair, excuse me, you can reuse it, but this hair you can't. You just have to toss it.
One
and
and-
throw it
it's-
away.
it's a one and done.
So I say to my clients, let's do the math. Do you want to purchase the human hair and you can use it, and we guarantee it for up to 6 months? You know, our human hair versus other hair or synthetic hair or hair that you would buy at the beauty supply store.
And this would be, walk us through the reusing. I mean, would you wash that to take it out of, after
Yeah.
you do one
Yeah.
install, wash it and put it back in?
Yeah, so we wash it, we cleanse it thoroughly.
Cleanse it, yes.
Yeah.
Sounds so stressful. I couldn't imagine washing somebody else's hair for like 6 months. I'm not trying to laugh at them, but for 6 months. And I got hair that grows organically on my head. I know everything about this. This is me. Like now I'm starting to understand the mean face, the angry face. You know what I mean? Like how black women, they be looking all mean. If you had to deal with this, I don't know, man. I don't think I ever have a good day.
Yeah, we're really into that. And then we condition it as well. And then we dry it in the dryer. And then we put the hair back into the hair.
I think too with the hair, because I go on levels. If they're my young girls, I have a brand that I refer to them. I have a brand for my single mothers. I have a brand for my college girls. I have a brand for my prom girls.
Which brand is it for each group?
Just each group, it depends on what you want. And like for the women, I introduce them to my hair. I sell my own hair. It's the Purple Locks collection.
Yeah.
And just like you said, with my hair, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And when we install it, it's already cleansed, shampooed, conditioned. When you take it out, we do the same thing. We have resealable package to keep it moist.
Well, what I'm gonna do is leave the link to this because now I'm getting overloaded. She just said we got hair for single moms. We got hair for the college student. I get it. Black women, we are a cash cow. We really are. Anything outside of doing things the right way, yeah, that right there. That's enough for me. Like I'm good. Like, um, she said they have a brand for a single. You know what? I'm going this far. I might as well finish it. That was a lot to me. The fact that they got us to the point where they know what they're gonna sell to us based off of our lifestyle says a lot.
You could use it time and time again. But like I was talking to you earlier, I know with me coming up, I came up on the Kanekalon. That's what my mother could afford. That's what we could afford. And I'm going into the store years later, and it's still that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not saying like we could get better and we should get better. You have to get what you can afford. And it's trying times.
I want to say with the Kanekalon, one of the things that scares me is when you use it in little people,
I
right?
know.
Because we know that body surface area, they're actually absorbing more of these chemicals
Yes.
than we are as an adult.
Yeah.
And I think that, studies have shown, like, let's think about relaxers. I was 5 when I had my first relaxer. I was always tender-headed, and it was really difficult to do my hair. And I remember getting my first relaxer. Well, studies have shown if you get 2 relaxers, more than 2 relaxers a year, for 5 years, that increases your risk of uterine cancer by 50%.
Wow.
50%. This is a recent study out of BU. So, the impact of these things is huge. And when we're talking about endocrine disruption, that's not just like cancer, that's also diabetes, that's obesity, and those things in and out.
reproductive
Right, and reproductive
systems.
infertility. We know that we have an
1 second. Obesity, infertility, sounds about right. It starts from your head. I'm sorry, I just needed to take a second on that.
epidemic of infertility, and we have an epidemic of fibroids
Yeah.
in the Black community. Like
Yeah,
it is,
that's huge.
it is a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? And so no one has actually studied like what are the connections between these things, right? Is some of the hair care practices that we're using contributing to the health issues that we're facing? Even the hair oils I was seeing contain chemicals. We think this is natural. So I have this conversation every day about hair oils in clinic, right? And they're like, it's organic, it's a natural oil. And even those oils have chemicals that may not be good for us.
Yeah.
So is it about reading that ingredients list, or how do you reduce your risk essentially?
I think one of the things that's really challenging here is that, as you mentioned, there are no ingredient lists, right?
Yeah.
So I talk about this with skincare all the time. Like back in my day, you went to Clinique, you got your set, you wash your, you felt very special. But if you go to that counter and you say, can I see the ingredients? They have to dig really far back. Most of the women who are selling these things to you don't even know where to find the ingredients. So I think that one of the challenges that we have are that there are no laws like we have with other things, right? Like food has to have a label. There are no laws that say, hey, these packages, these personal care products have to say what's in them. And I think
Yeah, this is a lot. So, man, that's a lot. Like the more I listen to it, the heavier my heart gets. But I'm definitely gonna leave this in the description, because I can see now. This is just hair. This is just Black women's hair. All the criticisms and stuff that we have for Black men as Black women, like, you even heard her say, Black women, we're out here selling these products to each other. Like, so other people are monetizing off of us. And we don't even know we're selling to each other. So I just thought this was really interesting. Something that I stumbled across and I wanted to share it with you guys. But, I'll share the link in the description, and I appreciate anybody that looks up this video. Because I think I'm gonna go into a deep dive on, what Black women are going through. Because I had no idea. You know, I had no idea, and I'm thinking that there are a lot of black women out there as well, who don't know that even what we put in our hair is making us sick. So yeah, I guess I'll start a series, and if I find out anything else interesting, let you guys know. All right, y'all have a good night.